All right, and I do have a super special guest with us here today, who is going to be leading our awesome webinar. Carlo from our product team. We're super excited to have him go over all of the awesome things that we've done this year. So Carlo, whenever you are ready, we are good to go.
Awesome. Can you hear me all right, Katie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you, number one, Katie, for this opportunity to do this. I really appreciate it. I am nowhere near as pro at Formative as Katie, or probably you, Kat, who's been here from way before, from the Go Formative days. So be patient with me, but I'm very excited to be here with you guys today and kind of walk through some of the features that we've released over the last year to deliver you a better experience and make Formative a better product for you to use in your classroom with your kiddos. So Katie, you'll be kind of moderating the chat, and feel free to stop me, interrupt me. I'm also going to show you guys something that's going to be released tonight, which I thought might be a nice little fun thing to do at the end of this. You guys can get a sneak peek and know what to expect. But let's jump into it. Let me share my screen. All righty, hopefully my screen is sharing, rearranging a couple things here. All right, so I thought this was funny. You guys all know that on our website, you can see all of our release note updates. And I was going through them, making sure I had everything documented. And there were things on that list. I was like, I thought this has been here for forever. And I didn't realize that it was just 6 months ago that we had done this. So in the last year, we've given you guys quite a few new item types for you to use. This modal looks a lot different than it used to. There's a lot more things in this modal as well, which is really nice. But let's talk about some of the question types that we gave you guys this past year. One fan favorite question type, I think, is a video response. So I'm going to add a YouTube video right in here. I'm a backpacker, so naturally I'm going to add these binge backpacking videos that I watch of people hiking the PCT and the AT. And I can timestamp this video and add questions throughout, and add multiple choice item right here if I want, and timestamp it, and the video will pause when my students get to that point in the video and ask them the questions. In the last year, we also released fill in the blank questions, which you all hopefully know how to use. If not, you should check it out. Fill in the add a blank, right? And then add a correct answer. So fill in the blank or fill in the backpack. Which one is it? It's fill in the blank. So that's a cool new addition. Similarly to fill in the blank, item type that functions almost exactly the same is inline dropdown or inline choice. So same concept as fill in the blank, but in this case, we're adding dropdowns instead of blanks, and we're giving our students the ability to basically choose from items within that dropdown. So like mini multiple choice questions throughout the item type. We also brought you match table grid. Hopefully you all have used this one. I'd love to know how you all are using some of these item types for what it's worth. So feel free to send us examples so we can make them even better for you. For now, I'll just say, is this a necessary backpacking item? And we'll put tent, and we'll do something just super simple. Add another row. We'll say backpack, and our choices will be yes or no. And we will type our correct answers down here. Yes, a tent is necessary for backpacking. So is a backpack, I would assume. We also brought you hot text. Select the words, right? So the best example here is select the adjectives, right? The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I should have had these pre-written and copy pasted. Forgive me, I can't type that fast. But I'm just gonna double click here and make these selectable areas. And I'm gonna say it can be multi-select and select my correct answers. Another good item type. We also brought you file upload in this last year. So if you have your students working on projects outside of Formative, maybe they're writing an essay, maybe they're doing some project-based learning and you want them to upload a PDF, you can do a file response. And we also brought you drag and drop, everybody's favorite drag and drop. And not only did we bring you drag and drop inline text where you're dragging text into the item, but we also gave you upload background images. So this is sort of the classic where you're typing the question, and then you might add a drop area here, and then another drop area, and students are going to drag into that area. Likewise, I'll switch over to the image, drag and drop image. So somewhat similar of a concept. Let me upload a picture and you guys can see my two boys in the process, my 3-year-old and 5-year-old here. And we can have students drag and drop into the image. So I can add drop areas to the image here. And then I can add answer choices down here. And I could say, this one's Cole. Hopefully I can identify my own children. This one is Sam. And this one's Carlo, and then drag these into the area to tell which ones are the correct ones. So not one, but 2 versions of drag and drop, which is pretty awesome. And the last item type we brought you was the hotspot question type. So again, I'll upload that wonderful picture of my kiddos, add it. And similarly, what I might do here is I'm going to make some drop areas or some selectable areas, on the image. So these are all the areas I want to be clickable. And then what I'm going to do is select one of these. I'll say, this is correct answer. And my question might be, which child has more of a temper? True. This is actually the correct answer for that question. Or I could make this multi-select. Now, one of the great things about Formatives is the flexibility of this application. So as you guys know, you can make almost any question partial credit. Hopefully you all saw this release in the release notes in the last couple weeks. This is arguably for me one of the most exciting things that we've done in a long time, which is not subtracting points for incorrect selections on some of these question types. So for those of you who are using partial scoring heavily and might have been using some of our more advanced item types, you know that we always subtracted if the student selected something that wasn't correct, which made the partial credit algorithm a little bit funky. And so now we have 2 partial credit algorithms and you can choose what you want and what works for you.
I know we heard that a ton from a lot of our users, that having that partial credit piece be amazing, that it's now super flexible and meets a lot of different needs. Yeah, video questions have definitely been a really cool update lately. I'm super glad to see that. Yeah, the new drag and drops and the partial credits, awesome. Super excited. I actually put together a hot spot question like this for a check-in at the beginning of a formative. If it was a bunch of different pictures of alpacas, and every time I get at least one person to spit out their coffee when I put it up, because it's all these like silly alpaca pictures. I'll have to find it and throw it in the chat so y'all can have it. But it's a great, like, just quick check-in in the morning for students. It makes them giggle and gets them started on the right space.
Love it, Katie. That's a great example. Yeah, keep giving good examples of these things throughout here. In terms of structuring your actual form itself, so you all know the item type stuff, but we also added sections this year. So I can add a layout and add a section up here and call this new questions. This is a really nice addition for those of you wanting to do sections. You can see how it anchors at the top of the page as I'm scrolling, so I know which questions belong to that section right now, which is really nice. And I can create another section below it, right? Just like you all would expect. And that was a really nice addition too, that sets us up for potentially doing some really cool things in the future with directing students to particular sections on formatives if we can get to there. Other things that I think are amazing. I don't know, Katie, if we have any writing teachers on the line or not, or observing this, but I think this is probably another one of my favorites. I'll use the upload your document as an example. So I might have kids doing, let's say they're doing an essay, right? And I want them to upload the document, the final version. I'll just do that file response. But Rubric's got some pretty amazing enhancements this past year. When I'm creating the rubric, I can not only create a single point rubric, right, or single level rubric, but I can make multi-level rubrics here too. So for you writing teachers who are gauging like argument, evidence, position, and you have different point values for each one of those specific things in the rubric, we do multi-level rubrics. Not only that, but you can do decimals in your multi-level rubrics too, if you so choose. So if this is 0.5 points and maybe this is 2 or whatever, I can do those particular things. Even better for you folks who are using rubrics consistently over and over and over again are that you can make these templates, right? So instead of having to create the rubric from scratch, every time you create one of these questions, I can create a rubric, I can save it, and I can say, okay, yep, use this rubric template for this question. Next week, maybe I duplicate the formative and I don't even have to think about this. That would be like pro tip, right? Is to not even think about that way, just duplicate the formative. But anytime I'm making another one of these, obviously, if I select rubric, I have my rubric templates here that I can just reuse and reuse over and over and over again, which is really nice. So you don't have to rewrite them every single time. So another thing that we release in terms of like scoring this stuff outside of the rubrics, a couple like small enhancements we made around the point values here. So you can see the total points that the formative is worth at the bottom. It's a little bit easier to know the point value of the questions here and to change those point values if they're not rubric questions, which is really nice. And then we also made a major enhancement to our numeric question types and some of our other question types that have where a student can have spaces in their answer choice. Right? I don't know how many of you all were using numeric or short answer, and the student writes the word, might write Katie on there and have a space after Katie. And now as a teacher, I have to add Katie with that white space as a correct answer. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just select to ignore extra spaces on numeric or short answer and not worry about those spaces counting against students. So that was another really awesome scoring enhancement that came out this past year that we were all really excited to bring to you all. Okay.
Yeah, math teachers have been like begging for that extra white space. So now they don't have to come up with all the possible combinations of spaces around numbers. I know my fifth graders were notorious for as many possible combinations of spaces and decimals and zeros.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's like, I forget what it was, but for those of you who have read Ender's Game, right? And the student in Ender's Game who puts the spaces after the password or something like that. Sorry, sci-fi pop culture reference. Excuse me. Back on track though. Those, Katie, I think for me and for a lot of us are even more exciting than adding like a new question type. New question type's great, but for like our math folks and ELA folks, not have to worry about that stuff anymore is just the best for us. So
all about maximizing that efficiency. We do. Yep. It's like at the goal of everything is to make it easier for y'all to work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. A couple other things before I switch out of the formative itself. And Katie, if there's anything I missed that you want to highlight, because I'm not doing every single thing, just kind of the big hits, feel free to stop me. One other thing that you might have noticed in here for those of you who are tagging to standards. So we have made some massive improvements in terms of how you look at the results on standards on a particular formative. So there's a couple different ways that you all have seen that. I'm sure you've seen it. One is through the 3-dot menu. I can say to view standard scores here. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to right click. And it'll take me to the tracker. This is like a really old assessment. And now I'm spoiling the new tracker filters that we released. And you're seeing them right now, but that's okay. So I can get directly to the tracker to see the standard scores for that item type deep dive assessment, which is really nice. But what I think we were most excited to do this past year for you all, if I can get back to this one, was to provide you the ability and view responses to group this by standards in particular. Any of you all who are looking to do standards-based item analysis, this is it, right? So at a glance, I can see the overall score for the standard. I can see every single class's score for the standard, and I can see every single student's score for this standard. I can quickly see which questions we struggled on. So clearly with RL.5.1, question 14 was a struggle. Question 12 was a real struggle. I can click into question 12 to actually see the student responses if I want to, or do a deeper analysis there, which is really nice. And really just facilitating that process for you. So if you guys are teachers on the call with us, you have it in view responses. That's the best place for you to access that. For our folks who are admin and might want to look at standard results on a single formative in their team tracker, we also added the ability to sort or to filter the team tracker by standards for particular formatives. So I can come in here as an admin or an instructional coach who's looking across multiple sites, wanting to really identify some of those best practices. And I can search item type deep dive, view results. Again, I didn't prep for this as well as Katie probably wanted me to, or I would have had a better formative example. But as an instructional coach at the district or or a TOSA or somebody looking across multiple sites, boom, I can see all of that information on every site in that standards tracker, in the team tracker. So those are two we think are like really, we're not done with the reporting enhancements for you guys for what it's worth. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to release standards progress over time. So you can see how a student has been performing on standards over time, which is really awesome. But we like to think we've started to really chip away at this for you all and get you guys the data that you need to make meaningful changes.
Have you all been able to play around with any of the standards-based analysis yet? Or is that something y'all may be looking at next year to help make that a little bit easier? I know we've had, I've been working with a couple of schools and districts that they're just like over the moon because it makes their PLC conversations a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier for them to plan as an individual teacher to be able to check in with students and make intervention groups and things like that. So super excited about that update. Would love to hear from you all if you have suggestions on that, or if you like it, don't like it. We're always open to feedback on some.
Hopefully you all saw this too. I didn't really highlight it, but Katie, you saying the PLC thing made me think of this.
Yeah.
Data culture isn't great at every district, right? It's something we're always constantly trying to build. In some places it's amazing. Some places are still working to build it. So if you're in that PLC meeting and presenting your screen, or you're an instructional coach, you can hide the names on the screen within the tracker itself. So I can say hide names, and we can have a conversation about our standard results that has nothing to do with like the individual teacher and more so about the standard and those results themselves. So we've made some small changes there too, to really try to facilitate some of those meetings for you all. Okay. Shifting gears a little bit, I need to be cognizant of time, and I think we're doing all right. We started to really move the needle, I think, with how we're solving for designated supports, accommodations, and universal tools within our application. And we made three updates that we're pretty proud of, that we're not done, by the way, either. It's a lifelong endeavor, but that I wanted to highlight for you all today. One is in the classes menu now, you can add time limit accommodations as well as text to speech. These are global accommodations, which is awesome as well. So in many cases, if you look at the student accommodations, right, they might have text to speech for math, but not for ELA, or vice versa. And typically it's because you don't want the need to read and impede the student's ability to do the math work, right? So you turn on text to speech for math, and so you don't have to worry about like whether the student can read or not. But typically those things are applied for every assessment those students have, or any time they're taking one of those things. And that's how our accommodations work right now. So technically these are global accommodations that follow my students around wherever they will go. I can say that this Anthony Brown student needs text to speech, and now I don't have to worry when I'm assigning a formative. I know that Anthony Brown is going to have text to speech enabled on that formative. Same concept with the time limit extensions. So they're number one, they're global accommodations, and that was deliberate so that you guys didn't have to think about it every time that you're assigning a formative to a student. You can just know whether or not they have it. And then number two, you can always come back in here and change some of these things if you want. This is just the start to our student tools designated support story. We know there's a lot more out there, obviously from the universal tools perspective. If you're talking about, highlighting, taking notes, all of those, strike through, all of those sorts of things. And then if you want to go all the way into the more designated supports and accommodation setting and talk like color contrast and screen contrast for students with visual impairments, we will continue to chip away at that and add to our offering of supports for students. But we were pretty excited to give you guys these two to start with, at least, or to start our story around student accommodations and designated supports.
Yeah, this is so amazing because what it does is not only accommodates for students within the platform, but it limits the amount of effort that teachers have to put in order to make those accommodations. So again, that whole premise of being able to save you all some time, making sure that your time is used efficiently. We're super excited about these accommodations. Carlo was kind enough to let me help and work on some of these accommodations or do some of the planning with these. So it was super exciting to see them roll out live for you all. And I'm glad that y'all are liking them.
Kind enough is a nice way to put it. We rely on Katie a lot to be y'all's voice out here because she's an amazing voice for you all and what she's hearing from you all. I wanted to show you all another thing because I think this is an area that I'm hoping we really click into this next year and start to improve, which is our experience of formative for our students. So that experience is, we get it with the global accommodations with time limit and text to speech, but there's a lot more to that as well. And what I'm going to share right now is just my student screen. Katie, if I mess something up, let me know, please.
No, you're good.
Switching screens here. So this was just a small improvement, but we heard a lot of feedback from students, right? That this list can become overwhelming. A student over the course of the year might end up having hundreds of formatives in here. So this is a small enhancement that we made, but I just want to highlight it for you guys because I think it's important and one that we need to keep continuing to improve, which is how we're sorting these. So as a student within Formative, I can come in and just see all open formatives that I have currently, or I can see all closed formatives. And that's something that might have gone unnoticed, but for you all who've been using Formative for a really long time or have students who have large lists, you can tell your students just to sort by status and just look at their open formatives so that that list is a little bit less cluttered. And I show this to you guys because this is very much so just like the tip of the iceberg for how we want to continue to organize this dashboard for our students better so that they have an easier time accessing Formative and then improving the experience once they're in there. We know that if students like using Formative, that it will be more effective for you, right? And you will have a better time with Formative yourself. So we think that's an important thing for us to continue to do. Okay, Katie, how am I doing? I can stop and ask, we can talk, answer questions.
I think we may have time for if you have one more. If you don't, we can stop, whatever works. We got about 6 minutes left before we got to let them go.
Oh, time for one more question?
Whatever you want. We have questions. If you all have questions that you haven't asked yet, feel free. Carlo loves to share information. So ask away. If there's things that you saw that you need more information on, I can grab a help article for you. Anything and everything Formative related. Throw your questions in the chat, excited, emojis, whatever it is. This is our end of the year celebration of new releases.
No crying, no sad crying faces.
That's true. That's true.
Unless it's out of sheer joy, then it's okay. So I think my request of you guys who are here on the number one, thank you for attending. But hopefully, Katie, they have your email, I think, right? Or mine?
Yeah, they have our support email that they can get in contact with, but you can we'll put my email in the chat for you all.
Or put mine. So here's the exit ticket for today for you all who attended this is to email me or Katie the thing that you wished you had seen in here that you didn't.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good one. Let me throw that in there.
Right. So it's been a year. Please feel free to the one thing that if we had that in here, you would have been like, I can go on summer break happy now, knowing what I'm coming back into. That's the exit ticket. Yeah, Kat. So to answer your question, Kat, parents were teachers. Mom was a school counselor. I was an assistant principal at a charter school in Brooklyn for a while, worked for the KIPP network for a long time, and I've been in ed tech for about 5 years. I didn't even talk about the ruler and protractor that we added to show your work. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. So
I know there's so many fun things. I find new things all the time. I'll be working with a client. I'm like, oh, look, this is new. This is exciting. This just dropped.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Please email me that one thing that you wish you had seen but didn't. And I think that'd be a nice thing for us to have leaving here.
Yeah. Super appreciate that. Sharon. Yes. Okay. So if you there's a really quick way to do that. So I am going to pull up my Formative account, but essentially you can remove your answers from that within the view responses screen. So you can remove responses just the same way that you can for students. And that should give you an option to fill in your questions again, if that makes sense. For a specific question, if you actually look at our view responses tab, Adrian, that's going to be, you'll be able to see the little blue icon pop up on the view responses tab. Let me pull up this one because I know I have a few of them on this that will showcase what I'm talking about, because this is also changed too. Actually, it's actually telling me that I made you host Carlo, and I made myself not co-host apparently.
Oh no, maybe I can switch it.
Can you make me co-host again?
If I can figure it out. Hold on.
A push notification or a browser. The best we have for a push notification right now is the bell icon in your account. There is no browser notification at the moment though, no.
Maybe that's your one thing.
There you go. There's your one thing, Carlo. So these blue notification buttons will pop up. And then also in the upper right-hand corner with your bell is another spot for y'all to look. for those notifications. Okay.
I saw a question from
Yes,
Katie
I do
about...
need to. Yep, we're going to do certificates. We do them every month, and I will send them out to your email. We use the email you signed up for, so keep an eye out for that certificate. So yes, you will get a certificate of attendance for this as well. All right, thank you all for coming. This was great. Definitely don't forget to send Carlo your hopes and dreams and wishes for Formative, because if there's one person to send them to, it's going to be him. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.